Welcome to Monday, September 29th, 2025. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Stormtober. What do I mean by that? We'll talk about that here in a minute, as October is showing signs of life weather-wise. But beautiful fall colors to show you first, as the weekend started off great, ended for a lot of you with some shower and thunderstorm activity and cloud buildup later in the day as that upper level low meandered across the west. We're going to have residual moisture hanging over the western half of the United States for the first half of the week. This will keep us comfortably mild, but will produce a fair amount of clouds and a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. Then over the weekend, we have a storm system and cold front approaching that will bring about a change in the weather this weekend and especially in about a week from today. That means as we go into October, we are showing signs of life in the weather pattern, which means October is going to show signs of being a little bit more stormy than what we've seen here lately, and especially in terms of some colder temperatures. Beautiful fall colors over the weekend. Here is Hans Peak Lookout in Colorado, up near the Wyoming-Colorado border. Beautiful fall colors mixing in with that subtropical moisture. Showers and thunderstorms were found from Phoenix to Las Vegas over the weekend and late last week, but also great cloudscapes. Great rainbow there on the western slope of Colorado. Heavy clouds and showers and thunderstorms on the southwest side of the Wind River Mountains, and some cloud buildup near Casper Mountain, as you can see there. And just other great cloudscapes all across the region. But not only here, we have our first photograph coming in from Massachusetts. Revere Beach, showing some clouds there along the east coast. Some of that moisture streaking up from the tropical activity sitting just off the southeast coast of the United States. Great shot there from Kurt Gowdy State Park. The colors up there really, really good and will continue to be good here for a little bit longer. Now, a lot of you have probably noticed a lot of color in the skies as we have gone into the evening hours and some sunrises and sunsets. Here one from Granite Reservoir between Laramie and Cheyenne, and then just beautiful sunrises and sunsets all across the region. Now, we're in a time frame between now and late November to where the changing sun angle getting lower and lower is really going to enhance the opportunity for blue hour sunrise and red fire skies at sunset, as Jan Curtis pointed out. And as you'll see here in a time-lapse video, you're going to get the red, you're just going to get the blues. So this time of year, as the seasons change and the sun angle really changes quite rapidly in the days ahead, that lower sun angle mixing with the clouds can really offer up some great opportunities for photographers. And here's another great shot there. This is near Pavilion, Wyoming, taken late last week. And then up around the Wheatland area. And then look at this, near Garrett, Wyoming on Friday. This was probably the same cloud pattern here west of Wheatland over the Cooney Hills, showing up with fire in the sky with those beautiful sunsets. Then some virga along the Wasatch Front in Utah over the weekend with that subtropical moisture, and star-filled skies with the new moon, allowing some good viewing of the stars and some great opportunities for some night viewing out there. As we start the week, you see that low over southwestern Wyoming. That's what's left of the upper level low that was spinning around all of last week. And with it still around, it's still going to produce some scattered shower and thunderstorm activity. Here's Umberto out in the Atlantic. That's where it's going to stay. It does look like Imelda is going to bring some rain to the southeastern coast of the United States, but latest indications suggest that the worst of the flooding or the worst of the rain may stay just off the coast. Let's hope that happens. But I'm sure you are noticing this area of low pressure here in the Gulf of Alaska. So things are hopping up there in terms of stormy weather going into Alaska, going up into Juneau there, up in the northwest areas of British Columbia. Part of that system is what's going to slide in as we get into this upcoming weekend. But southwest flow aloft will bring very mild, warm air, warm temperatures into the Intermountain West and the Western High Plains here to at least start the week. And you can really see That upper level low, see the swirl in the clouds up here in the Gulf of Alaska? Also notice a lot of clouds here along the California coast. And here's some of that residual subtropical moisture right here. And you can really see it on the water vapor. The water vapor is showing there's just a lot of high humidity air all across the western United States. And that swirl showing up very well up here near Juneau. So things are starting to happen upstream, but downstream southwest flow will keep us warm and keep showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. Look at the precipitable water here as of noon today. So with all this water vapor in the air, just a little bit of daytime heating in the mountainous terrain will keep scattered showers and thunderstorms going. This is the thunderstorm outlook for today. This is for the thunderstorm outlook tomorrow. Now, once we get into Wednesday and Thursday, things begin to move. The moisture kind of thins out a little bit, and we'll see less in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity midweek. Now, as we get into Thursday, part of that storm up in the Gulf of Alaska will break off a piece of energy, and we'll have a Pacific cold front come into the Pacific Northwest and California on Thursday. Then what we're going to see over the course of the weekend is this front sweeps through quickly. By the end of the week, this system, this other part of the storm in the Gulf of Alaska, comes in on the back side of it. So things are shifting. Things are moving around. We're seeing the displacement of the jet stream in the higher latitudes beginning to show more movement. Notice you're seeing these darker colors, the reds going to the greens and the blues. The cold air is expanding in the high latitudes, which is exactly what you'd expect this time of year, and that's beginning to affect how the jet stream is going to behave. So as we go through most of the week, we're going to be on the warm side of things, a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity, but pretty pleasant. Then as we get into Saturday here, you can see the stronger low is coming into western Canada. The other low is going to dip down into the southwestern United States. There is a fair amount of cold air on the back side of the system. If you look at the black wind barbs here, you can see the trajectory of the air is coming from up here, then coming down. So the air is going to build up, and the air behind this front is going to be a bit more serious than with the fronts we've seen lately in terms of the cold air available behind it. So this is noon Saturday. Then once we get into noon Sunday, we have a more mature, larger trough coming on in. See the wind barbs? The trajectory of the air is from here down. So that'll get the birds going from the north to the south, and that'll help waterfowl hunters. But this is going to drive in much colder air beginning Sunday into Monday. So what I want to do is say this is the beginning of a change in the weather in October that's going to make things colder and more unsettled. Notice the high pressure ridge in the eastern Pacific. For folks who have been watching the podcast for a long time, you know that when you put a ridge here, we go into the fridge in the Intermountain West. This allows the jet stream to start taking dips. So late this weekend into early next week, hunters in the central and northern Rockies need to be ready for much colder temperatures, a high probability of mountain snow, especially Montana, northern, northwestern Wyoming, parts of Canada. This is going to be our first real serious shot of cold this fall coming into the northern region. These are the temperature anomalies by noon Monday. So by noon Monday, the cold front is all the way down to Colorado Springs and Pueblo, coming down into the Great Basin. You can see there's a core of cold coming into Montana and Wyoming. That's why there's likely going to be higher elevation snow late in the weekend coming up and about a week from today. Then the upper low gets cut off, and this is going to make for an interesting situation. This low could get cut off and then meander for a good part of next week over the central and northern Rockies, keeping it cool, keeping it unsettled, and maybe keeping a little bit wet. This is problematic. We've seen this in Octobers before when they get cut off like this and kind of hang around and can cause some cool and unsettled weather. So once we get into October, things looking a little bit more different. Don't know if this low is going to get cut off from the main flow or not, but notice we have a strong gradient up here, strong jet stream winds. And if we go out further, let's push the envelope a little bit. When we go out further, when we look at the teleconnections, we showed you this late last week that once we got into October, we were going to go into a negative phase of the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, which is a cold signal. It stays strongly negative from late this week all the way up through the 14th of October. So this means the Pacific is going to be churning out storms, and high pressure is generally going to be in the eastern Pacific. The Pacific North American oscillation is showing a tendency to be negative, and you see these ups and downs. These ups and downs represent systems coming through. So big picture items are showing October going to be a bit more interesting. And if we go out 324 hours to the weekend of the 11th and 12th of October, this is starting to have a much colder look. We still have the high pressure ridge right here in the eastern Pacific. We have the jet stream dipping. See the colors? Then follow the wind barbs. This is going to be pushing in much colder air into the Dakotas, the northern Rockies, and then eventually further south. Now, this is very far away. This is 2 weeks from now. But if you look at the long-range modeling, there's a lot of similarities from the European, its AI version, and the GFS, all advertising that high pressure ridge wanting to be there. So, as we go into October, looks like the weather will be getting more busy. Have yourself a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.